Hi, my name is Heather Ottman, and I was homeschooled my kindergarten through 12th grade school years. I am currently an elementary teacher in a private school and have been doing that for the past 9 years. Today I'm going to be talking to you about scope and sequence, which is what your child needs to know each grade and at which rate they need to learn those things, and how you as a parent figure that out in order to homeschool them this year and years to come. I'm going to come at it from two different angles. The first angle being that your intentions of homeschooling are to homeschool just during the health crisis, and that you will send your child back to his or her school once it's over. The second option is going to be that you intend to homeschool your child long term. I'm going to start with the first one. So let's say that you want to pull your child out of their school and homeschool them just short term with the intent of them returning. If that is the case, then I suggest that you find out which curriculum your school currently uses and you stick to that as closely as possible. You don't have to go reinvent the wheel and try to figure out what should they be learning this year, what should they not. That has already been laid out for you in the form of benchmarks or standards. Iowa uses the Iowa Core, and all of the curriculum that your schools are using are aligned to that, or lessons are based off of that. It is your scope and sequence so that they have a way to gauge what your child should be learning at what time. If your child is learning in elementary school, then they may not have a hard and fast curriculum that you can just go purchase, but your school district will know this. You can lots of times find it online of your school district. Sometimes they don't publish that for you though. Sometimes they'll publish just the benchmarks saying the skills that your child will be learning in their grade, and then you could find a curriculum that matches that. But I suggest that you either read online. If you don't find enough information, contact your school directly and see it and ask about the grades that your children are in and what are the benchmarks that they need to meet in order to be successful for the grade that they're going to be completing. I hope your district is helpful to you. If they're not, then we certainly are here to answer any questions we can to help you make this transition smoother, but that's going to be your best bet for this time if your intent is to send your child back. Find out what standards they need to know or benchmarks they need to meet. Find out the curriculum they use and stick with that so there's not a lot of transition back and forth between curriculums, because that can get tricky for your kid, especially in the area of math, because curriculums are teaching that very differently these days. If your child's in the middle school or high school, do the same thing. Find out what they might learn in language arts. Find out maybe what curriculums they're using for history, what books they might require to read, especially if they're taking a prerequisite course to something that they're going to need when they get back. Find out what any of those things are. If there's not anything super specific, it's a simple Algebra 1, it's a simple biology course, then you're going to be pretty free to pick whatever one you want. And there are plenty out there. The scope and sequence that they need to learn in biology or in life science or in language arts, whatever they're doing, most of your all-inclusive curriculums have that laid out completely for you. I'm in a private school and we use a Christian curriculum. We use Bob Jones, and I can go online, type in Bob Jones curriculum, scope and sequence, and I can see the whole thing K through 12, every single subject, what they need to be learning in which grade. And that curriculum is aligned to state and national standards. For sure national, some state ones vary slightly, but not enough to matter. If your child is doing maybe a program that's not Christian, let's say a Harcourt, like a Houghton Mifflin, then those ones too. They're all inclusive, they're huge publishers, they've been around a long time, and their curriculums are very well aligned to standards, and you can find their scope and sequence online. You don't have to reinvent that. So if your child's supposed to be in 8th grade, do the 8th grade curriculum, and they're going to be able to go right into 9th grade just fine. Those curriculums and others like them are very well mapped out. Now let's go to option 2. Say that you are intending to homeschool your child long term now. Now what curriculum do you pick? Again, I would go back to, if your child's in elementary school, you need to pick a curriculum that lays it all out for you very clearly. I mentioned Bob Jones, there's a Becca, there's a lot of other ones similar to those, but they've been around a long time. They have all your subjects and they are mapped out very well for you. Pick one and stick with it through the elementary years, at least through 3rd or 4th grade. Not because another one might not be good or be better, but because they teach things a little bit differently during each grade. And if your child's switching curriculums all the time, they're going to miss things, especially in those young elementary years. in the way of math and language arts. For example, say I'm teaching math, my math book teaches the analog clock in 2nd grade. Another curriculum might not teach it till 3rd grade. Not a big deal which grade you learned about the analog clock in, but you'll miss it if you hop a grade then and one of them taught it early and then you hopped grades and they had already taught it and then your child missed it. So pick a curriculum, pick one that's been around a long time. The teacher manuals are awesome. The scope and sequence is right in there. They tell you how to teach it. They tell you which day to do things. They tell you what you need to say. It's really simple for you as the parent to follow, and you're not reinventing the wheel. Once you get comfortable with homeschooling, then you can branch out and try other things. But again, in those formative years that your child is learning to read, write, and do math, do not switch curriculums on them, and so that they have a good foundation in whatever curriculum you decide to start with. Once they reach middle school and high school, then you are a lot freer to branch out. Your child, you know they need a biology, you know they need a life science, you know the different credits that they need in order to graduate with math and things. You can look those up if you're not sure. But then you're a little more free to pick a variety of curriculums or courses that best suit your child. They don't have to all come from the same publisher. And again, the scope and sequence can be found online for the majority of these curriculums. You can see what they need to be teaching and when. This is not something that you have to figure out. It has been done for you. So again, if you are planning on sending your child back to his or her school that they're going to, I suggest you find out what they need to know from your school district and do your best to align your teaching this year to that. If you're planning on homeschooling your child long term, then if they're young, pick a curriculum and stick with it for all those formative years until you feel comfortable, until they are solid in their reading and in their math, and then you can branch out a little more in the science and histories and other things that you can add later. Homeschool Iowa is here to help in any way that you can, so reach out to your regional rep or anyone else at Homeschool Iowa, and we hope this new journey for you is a successful one.